Alright, so now we can get going on to the arms. And let's just do the same process over again. So we are going to be taking a 70% cool gray, a 50% cool gray, a white, and just for some good measure, 70% warm gray just in case. So we're going to be using these colors for our arms, and we're just going to be doing the same process. So let me go ahead and sharpen my white pencil. Hopefully it's not too loud. Alright, and now let's get to it. So once again, I'm just going to be putting in my highlights, areas of curvature. I like to put highlights in. One second. There. Sorry about that. Same thing around the arms. I also like to add a little bit of a highlight in here as well. So I'm actually debating if I should put a different color to this. Maybe like a red, but I don't know if I'll do that. Anyways. So I like adding highlights around the edges where it starts getting rounded because that's usually where light catches on rounder objects. Then I am going to take my 50% and I'm going to be coloring in the rest with the cool gray. And let me sharpen this as well. I should have sharpened these before I did this video. And in fact, that reminds me I should just sharpen all these remaining 2 pencils, so be right back. One, and last one. Great. Okay, enough for now. Taking this 50%, I'm just going to be coloring everything beside the highlight. And especially around the shadows where the metal starts piling on top of each other. I should add a little bit more white to this area here. So as you notice that adding these multiple layers of light and dark gives it that metallic feel. Let's do the same thing on the other side. I forgot to add a bit of gold in this area, so I'm going to take my brown here, taking a sienna brown, and I'm just going to be painting this, coloring this area here, just to show that that's a gold area. So now I'm going to be taking a 70% cool gray, and I'm going to be coloring in the darker shadows. So stuff like the inner parts of the arm. Oop, I forgot this part here. And then the shadow here. There. So I always like adding shadows just to show form, as always. So never forget those shadows, because that's the difference between, flat versus 3D. I want to add shadows underneath of the fur as well. And because we already colored the gold, the gray doesn't really affect it very much. So that is one arm. Now let's go to the second one, which will be a little bit more subdued because there's not much here. So I usually like to put them around the edges, underneath the panels here. And here as well. Same for the underarm here, or the lower arm. Highlight, highlight, then dark, or medium dark. So I'm using 50% on this part. And then 70%. Make sure you have a nice shadow applied to it. So that is good for the arms, for the shoulder parts here. And now let's go with the elbow pads. Elbow pads, same thing. I like adding highlights around the edges here. Because they're a little bit rounded, they're going to be a little bit smoother in texture. So I'm adding some whites here and around the curvature. And then I'm going to add a little bit of my 50%. And in fact, I'm not really going to add any more to this because I think that's more than enough. So now I'm going to add a little bit of thickness along these edges here because it feels like it needs it. It's starting to get lost in the color pencil. So always add some more line work if necessary. Especially around areas like the emblems where, you know, the joints connect and you want to, you know, point that out. So far so good. He's looking really nice. I'm actually going to add a little bit of a 70% here. There. Alright, and now for the gloves. The gloves can also be white. I'm thinking of just making this overall a white and gold armor. Although it would be kind of nice if I, you know, alternate some colors, but that's okay. So let's take that white again. And let's put in our highlights. In this case, I like to go kind of more streaky on this one. And then more flat around the, or rounded around the palm box. Same thing on the other side. So once all that's colored and you see a little bit of our highlights already developing, so it starts looking a little bit more silvery, let's go ahead and add our 50%. And just fill in the rest of these areas that weren't colored with a gray. And in a way, this tone paper gives a gray tone as well, so in a way it kind of saves you some work. Tone paper also works when it comes to, you know, like putting in lights and darks, because when you put lights on tone paper, you can actually see a lot clearer than you would with just regular white paper. So that's why I like using Prismacolors with this tone paper here. Now I'm going to take my, I'm going to take my 70%. Just do the same thing. Just kind of mark out the ridges here, showing form once again, showing, you know, overlap. And then around the edges, around where it starts, you know, rounding out, I like to add some shadows there, just to show the cylindrical form. So I feel like these emblems here are starting to lose their color a bit. So I'm actually going to take my yellow ochre and just color in these areas kind of more intensely. And then I'm going to take my browns and I'm going to just emphasize that real quick. And if needed, I will take my pen and trace over on top. So these color pencils kind of give off a waxy texture. So be sure to, well, I should have used a color pencil, oh, not a color pencil. I should have used a napkin to wipe this off. So, but sometimes, you know, with Prismacolors like this, you'll end up having some residue. So just wipe those off when you feel that your pen's starting to get a little bit of markings on top. There. Let's add some shadows here. So it's starting to look more like metal now, which is pretty neat. And now let's add in, oops, I forgot to add in areas, darker area around the palm box here. And then we're going to take our last bit of gray and we're going to color in the rest. Where it goes towards the bottom, you know you want to shade it in a little bit more. And then, of course, you want to re-emphasize these lines using your pen. So sometimes you have to reline because your thin lines will end up disappearing once you add color on top because it's a waxy texture. So I'm only just outlining the outlines of some areas, and then that's it. Alright, so that is our arms all pretty much done. Now let's go down to the waist, which will be a lot easier. And this can just be done by putting in our grays. First our whites around the edge here. And now let's add in our gray, our 50% gray. And then of course, we can use our 70% and re-emphasize areas that we want to emphasize. Putting a little bit of shadow behind the hand here so the hand can pop out physically. Well, not physically, but just like kind of pop out a little bit more. Adding a little bit of darkness just to re-emphasize that pitch black areas of shadow for metal. Like so. And then this abdominal area is done. Same thing will apply for the end of his armor. But since it's mostly covered, by his hands, will mostly be covered in shadow. So I'm using 50%, just recoloring in everything else. And then using my 70%, just coloring in the shadows. I'm going to add a shadow underneath the sword because that will cast a shadow because it's in front of it. And there we have his whole armor from the top. And since we still have enough time, let's go ahead and do the belt. And I imagine the belt to be more of a brownish color, so we're going to do that. So we're going to take our burnt ochre and then just coloring this in lightly. And once you're done with that, let's take a sand and blend this in. So in a way that will give it a more opaque feel. And then we are going to take our dark umber, and then let's go ahead and color in the shaded areas around the waist, underneath the scabbard, or underneath the sword, and we are good for the belt. If we want to re-emphasize areas like the strap, we can do that. And while we're at it, we can go ahead and do the sword as well. So the sword, I kind of imagine it would be a gold this time because, well, actually, golden swords don't really exist, but let me think. So let's just do the hilt first. So the hilt will be gold. So I'm going to take my lemon yellow once again and color in this area here. And this area here as well. And then to match with the hair, I'm going to make the hilt here of red. So I'm going to just be coloring that really lightly, just as a block in. That's good. Don't mind the dog barking a bit. Now I'm just going to add in my yellow ochre, and then just going to be coloring in and filling in the little gaps of color, just to kind of give it some pop. And now I'm going to add my burnt ochre and just re-emphasize my shadows. If you want to add some ornamental, look, then that's fine with me. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see this better. So that's what it looks like. Let's take a dark umber this time and then just redefine the shadows. If you want, you can even add some details using the darker color. That's good. Let's add a little bit of shadow underneath the hand as well. And now let's give it some gemstone color. So I'm going to take a turquoise, and I'm going to be coloring one turquoise here and another one here. And then I'm going to use a peacock blue as a dark color, just towards the ends here. And then because I want to, I will take my white gel pen and see if this works. Let me just test it on the side here. It looks like it's going to be running. It's not running out of ink, but it's just not running out. It's just not running for some reason. Let me try to find my other one. This one should probably work better. Yep. So I'm going to put a little spot on top just to kind of show that this is a little gemstone. Of course, if I want to re-emphasize the gemstone, I'm going to put a little bit of a dark color or dark border over on top. Now let's do the same thing on the other side. Peacock blue. Oh, I should have done turquoise first, but oh well. And then white gel pen. Like so. And that'll kind of give it a nice shiny exterior. So now when it comes to the crimson, let's add a little bit of a crimson lake and add it around the edges. Now let's add a pale vermilion and color in the highlighted areas, or the areas that are a bit lighter. And that shows some vibrance. Alright, so that is the hilt of the sword. Now let's go ahead and put in the sword itself. So I'm going to color one side white, another side a little bit less white. And let's see how that looks in comparison to his armor. So it looks like it's blending in a little bit, which is fine. You just need a little bit of darkness. So just to make it pop out a little bit, I'm going to be adding a 70% cool gray and coloring one half of the sword a darker color. There. And if it's necessary, I will darken at the edges. And even go ahead and put in some black, metallic, or shiny highlights, just to kind of give it that extra flair. And of course, I'm also going to be using a little bit of my white gel pen just to bring it out a little bit more. So as you can see, it kind of starts popping out, even though it's similar value-wise to there. But if I want to make it a little bit more, if I want to make it stand out a little bit more, I'm going to shade in the rest of this abdominal area in a darker color so that the brightness of the sword picks up a lot better. There. So as you can see, because I darkened this part, then this part pops out a lot more. So we are 19 minutes in. I think I will stop here and I will go ahead and go on to the next video. Bye-bye.